For as long as I can remember, I've wanted to teach. I wanted to stand in front of a classroom and give them the same experience that I had with my transformative teachers. I wanted them to feel safe, passionate, inspired, curious. I wanted to love and be loved in the way that only students and teachers can. At the beginning of the semester, we were asked to identify our needs, worries, and excitements for this course. Wide-eyed and unsure, I wrote down what I absolutely needed was to be surrounded by people that share my passion, drive, and fire. Reflecting on this now, I didn't realize that being in an environment suited to those desires would have as great of an impact on me as it actually did. Something I found to be incredibly impactful upon my learning was the time I spent researching trauma in students. Knowing what I know now, I feel much better equipped to identify and acknowledge trauma in my future students. Educating teachers about trauma can only go to benefit society. A general understanding and acceptance of trauma would create a more inclusive and holistic learning environment. As said in the reading, The Purpose of Public Schooling, public school is meant to carry out the desires of the public. So why should we as a society not desire a more trauma-sensitive learning environment? It is my personal belief that trauma education should be mandatory for all educators and administrators in order to establish a precedent for healthy student-teacher interactions. All of the things that I learned through the project about trauma are things that helped grow my mindset in a way that I know I'll hold on to as I venture into the field and someday into my own classroom. Exploring the course question, what does it mean to teach, by using these topics I listed earlier brought me to a greater understanding of the people around me as well as the true nature of the answer to this question. I understand now that to teach means to look into the eyes of your students and understand. Understand their diversity, their trauma, or lack thereof, their perspective, their individuality, their reason for sitting in front of you. To understand that maybe school isn't their greatest passion or priority, and to do your best to make it an experiment that they'll forever learn from and build upon. One of the questions I most often think about is, what kind of adults do you want your students to be? It makes me reflect on my time as a camp counselor and how I used the week with my kids to read them feminist novellas, to build confidence, to help them make friends, to try something new. Anything that I thought was valuable to my personal growth at that same age, I wanted to teach those girls. In the Brown article titled Examining the Other in Education, it says that schools produce conditions that make girls feel inclined to opt out of certain subjects such as math and science. So I feel as though I have a responsibility to help them stray from that inclination. And on privilege, McIntosh mentions in her article that whites are carefully taught not to recognize white privilege. Having a group of incredibly diverse girls at camp, I now realize that this practice of teaching empowerment and equality was my early interpretation of the working answer to that question, what kind of adults do you want your students to be? Moving forward, I hope to use the lessons that I learned in EDT190 to continue to broaden my definition of what it means to teach. I want to define myself as a teacher not only by what my students can learn from me, but also what I can learn from my students. I want to explore diversity, privilege, and individuality further in a way that will help me to develop my sense of understanding for my future students and have a stronger sense of compassion for them. I want to have the courage to fail publicly and to get back on my feet and to say, what can I do differently this time?
Once I was 7 years old.